Welcome ladies to Spotlight Hustle, and today I am with the wonderful Dipalee Jukes. So we're going to get straight into this, and I was actually saying to Dipalee before we started this interview, I don't actually make it a habit of doing loads and loads of research about our guests because I like to know as much about them as possible. But this lady, we've actually got a lot in common, so I kind of want to get started by asking, Dipalee, just tell me a little bit about your journey, like how you got to where you are. Your CV is really impressive. And I think one of the questions for women in our community is always, how did someone do that? And just more of like not a step-by-step guide, because obviously we haven't got time, but just letting them really understand what that journey looked like for you.
Yeah, so second generation British South Asian, probably like a lot of your listeners here, second generation. At school, I really loved geography, and I kind of followed my passion. It was going against the cultural norm of studying, being a doctor or dentist or anything like that, and I went off to study geology at university. I just was curious about the natural world, and I actually didn't have a clue what career I would do afterwards, and I kind of fell into engineering, geology, geotechnical engineering, and fast forward several years, I kind of decided I'd do it myself.
Good for you.
Yeah, it was a bit of ignorance, but my late 20s, I decided to go off backpacking for a year. Packed in my, I handed in my notice, went off for a year, came back to no job. It was the recession in 2009, and it was the kind of now or never. Sort of, I had an inkling, and me and a friend were like, "Well, let's give it a go." We're not getting any younger, and we don't have any kids yet. If it fails, it fails, and we kind of went in with that attitude of failure is okay, but at least we've given it a go.
Yeah, I think that's really important. People need to understand that failure actually is the only way that you're going to learn. So I like to call it failing your way to success. I just feel like without failure, you can't actually grow, and we need to kind of embrace it more.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a bit of a dirty word, and I think we need to change the narrative around it. But yeah, I kind of went into it like that, and within a year of starting the company, so we started Ground and Water, my business, with a friend of mine, 2009, and then a year later I was pretty much to the day I was pregnant, and I was like, right, there's no plan B, this has to work. I have to make this work.
Really connect on that one.
And so I literally put all my eggs in one basket. It wasn't a side hustle, I went all in, because in my industry it was very difficult to have a career and have children, and so I was like, I'll just rip up the rule book and make up my own rules. And yeah, nearly 15 years in the business now. Many
of our community actually are balancing the two. Do you have any advice? Because obviously once you had children, if your business was growing, you're scaling it, there must have been an element of trying to juggle the two. And for many women, it's either, you've got your job, you've got your side hustle, you could have children, we're community leaders, you might be on the school PTA, have to look after parents, especially when you're second generation. I think even for me that looking after parents is a big part of our culture. So how did you balance that?
Like you say, you're wearing many hats, and people think our energy is boundless and limitless, but it's not. And I think for me it came at a cost of my own health a few times, and burnout, which is bounded about a lot, but I definitely had a few rounds of that.
Wow. And
for me now it's managing my energy and not just my time, and really focusing on things that align with my purpose, because there are lots of opportunities and lots of things you can say yes to, but it's learning when to say no.
Yes. Yeah.
Which I find really difficult, because I want to people please, and I want to make everybody happy, and I want to not disappoint anybody.
Yeah, but there's got to be a line.
There's got to be a line, and I think in those early days when the kids were young, I was very much in the background surviving, and now they're all a bit bigger. I'm being a bit more picky about what I'm going to do and actually putting myself first.
Yeah.
So I think you can have it all, but not necessarily all at the same time. I think you have to phase it.
I think I needed that reminder, by the way. I'm a bit of a say yes to everything, and then I'm the person that suffers in the end trying to get everything done.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting, one thing that I did read about you that you kind of gave me a big jolt, if you want to honestly with, is you've got a morning routine, haven't you?
I do.
Yeah, I would love for you to tell our audience
Yeah.
about that morning routine, because I keep hearing, reading, I start with this, but I thought, oh wow, yeah, this is something that I definitely need to work on.
Yeah, well, no, absolutely. And I tell all my friends and family and anybody who wants to listen about my morning routine. So sorry to bore if you've heard it before somewhere else. But it's a book called, I read, there's lots of books out there, but there's one called The Miracle Morning. And it goes on about 6 things. And the acronym is SAVERS. And it's basically, the S is for silence, which is meditation. And I just do 10 minutes of each thing. Oh, it could be 5.
Okay,
if
so not
time pushed, yeah.
Yeah.
So I do meditation, which is silence. A is for affirmations. V is for visualizations. E, exercise. R is breathing. Exercise can be 10 minutes of yoga or stretching. Or,
Okay, that works for
move
me.
your body,
Okay,
dance,
that works for me. You said
anything.
exercise, I was like, ooh.
10 minutes of reading and then 10 minutes of scribing, or that's the American version, but journaling. And that's been my biggest lifesaver, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the meditation and the journaling are 2 things that are my non-negotiables every day. And I start the day with them, and I will always end the day with journaling, because for me it's like self-therapy.
Oh, so you end your day with journaling as well?
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, I do sort of a morning, what I'm going to focus on, my gratitude for the day. And at the end of the day, I always do a 3 wins minimum of what are my 3 wins, no matter how small they were, of what am I really grateful that I achieved that day. And I think it just helps clarify goals, it makes you reflect, and it just helps you.
I love that as well, the 3 wins. So some
Yeah.
days I just have some really bad days.
Yeah.
If you want to honestly, but I've never really looked at, I've never really framed it like that. Like at the end of the day, let's look at the wins that you did have.
Yeah.
Because that's actually quite motivating for me to get up the next morning and kind of continue. I've never really looked at it like that. So something I think I'm definitely going to introduce into my schedule. Yeah, 3 wins at the end of the day.
3 wins. Like one of mine was putting on the washing today. Feeding the kids.
Yeah, that would definitely be one of mine. Speaking of kids,
They can be small, but they're wins.
Yeah,
They're
well, I think
wins,
as
yeah.
women, we give ourselves a hard time. I think that's really important.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely taking that one. So next question is mindset. Mindset's really important, and I also feel like when you're 1st, 2nd or 3rd generation, there's a lot of blueprints that we bring into mindset. Like for example, I was always taught like keep your head down, stay out of trouble, you know, don't be too boasty. My dad would always say be humble in what you're doing. But then in this day and age, that doesn't really work, because if you don't speak up and out, you can just easily either get ignored. But mindset is something to this day that I always have to keep challenging myself on, because it's so easy to slip back into those blueprints. Does that make sense? Of just like limited self-belief, imposter syndrome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
I'm nodding profusely again, yeah, because all of those things I still suffer from, and it's a daily reminder that I don't have to be that person and that I can be bigger than that. But I think it starts with courage. I think believing in yourself and courage to try new things, to not fear that failure, because anytime you try something, the first time you're going to be potentially quite rubbish at it. And you're going to
I think that's a really good point, actually.
keep going.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And I think we don't give ourselves enough break on that. As women, we do feel like if we're going to do something, like it's got to be perfect first time round. And that's actually a really great way to look at it. The first few times you do anything, you're not going to be perfect. So actually, give yourself a break.
Yeah. I mean, this year, well, the last couple of years, I've, like a lot of people, public speaking is something I've really been petrified of my whole life. And as a leader and an entrepreneur, it's something I know I need to master it now. Something I just need in my skill set. So I've pushed myself out of my comfort zone. I've been on a few courses. I've put my hand up to do a few talks. And I think, you know, the first time round it was horrible, and I've got that little bit better each time. And in a couple of weeks I'm on another panel, which, you know, and it's good.
Yeah,
it's good
I'm glad that you said that though as well, actually, because with public speaking, I think in our community, where a lot of women have got digital products and digital businesses, one of the questions I always get asked the most is, how do I put myself out there, but I don't want to be on social media, or I don't want to be on video? And I always say, you're just going to have to kind of do it. It's going to be scary at first, but you kind of just got to push past it, because it's not easy putting yourself out there, especially in this day and age on social media, having to do videos, like you said, the public speaking. It's difficult.
It's vulnerable, I think, and that's, yeah, it's a balance. But I think also the public speaking and that side of it's a real skill that you can learn. And so for me, it was how do I break it down? How do I go and do a few courses and learn from other people who are really good at it? And actually, that's something, if I can learn it, it's not something you're born with.
No.
It's not, confidence you're not born with.
Communication as well, and I think that's something
Yeah.
that we don't realise. We're actually taught these things. Yeah, good, great point.
So just changing the narrative in my head of I'm never going to be good at public speaking to you. I can learn to do it.
Yeah, definitely. I totally get that. So next, I just want to look at digital upskilling. I feel like for many women, and some people have got this concept, oh, the younger generation's fine. But a lot's changed in the last 5 years, especially with the use of AI tools, the fact that we can build out our own websites, we can design our own stuff with using apps like Canva. There's so much as an entrepreneur and business owner that we can now do through technology. And I know for many of you, it's something that you're really fearful of. For you, Dipalee, how was the technical upskilling in terms of starting and scaling your business?
Awful to start with because I'm not a very techie person. My husband will definitely back that. But like you say, doing a few things on Canva, for me it was choosing a few things and doing them really consistently well. I think you can try and do a million things badly, or you can pick 2 or 3 and be really consistent with them and master those. And one of those things for me in the last 3 or 4 years has just been the social media side, and for my business it's LinkedIn. And so knowing how to write good content and relevant content and good imagery and the right hashtags, and there's a real skill behind it as well and the science behind it, and it's just being consistent with that on a weekly, however many times I do it a week.
How often do you do it per week? Because I know for some people feel like they've got to be posting every day, and it's different for different industries as well, ladies. There's no golden rule for any of this. But how often do you find?
Averagely 3 times a week, I would say.
Still pretty often.
Yeah. To find that relevant information and content that you think other people want to hear as well. So my head's always constantly of what people what do
people want, which can be really difficult actually. But I always say to people, if you have got a client base, sometimes you're better off just asking them, what is it that you would like to hear about more? But I'd love to hear about more how you do find your clients on LinkedIn actually. Because I think for some people they feel like it's a myth of just posting and contacting people. Does that make sense?
No, well, so I think you've got to be strategic about it. So you need to know who your market is. You need to know, what kind of companies or customers you're going for, understand the messaging, what are their wants and their afters, and then really, answering their sort of wants. So for me, it's we're very much B2B, and I know who my customer sector is. I know what their frustrations are, and so what we put out is something that's going to resonate with them. I then search for companies on LinkedIn, like Sales Navigator. And I will contact them directly, I will connect with them, I'll send them a message, and then it's the nurturing piece. And, and it does work, and it's and eventually, do you want to meet for coffee? Or we're going to this networking event, do you want to...
It's building the momentum really, isn't it? Like you said, it's consistency, and then once one coffee chat comes in, as time keeps passing, you keep doing it, others come in.
It's a long-term game, really, and it can take, almost 9 touches, I think, before you might get in front of that person. But I have won business through that, and repeat business and referrals, so it does work.
Works.
It's just time-consuming.
Yeah, I get that, which is the balance thing. But as well, also I find sometimes you have to schedule things in. So things like messaging for me, I sometimes do at night time when I'm in bed.
Yes, I mean social media, I actually put into my calendar as a task I need to do a few times a week, and I time box it as well.
Yeah, that's actually brilliant, ladies. That's something I learned a couple of years ago, putting everything into your calendar. Even I block out all my kids' activities. Like you said, if I've got to be writing emails, it's admin day, everything gets scheduled in, and there'll be a time for it because it is a lot more productive. I was
going to say, my diary, it looks a bit crazy, but it's military precision, sort of everything, including exercises in there.
I think I need to add exercise.
So if I don't do a lunchtime run occasionally, then I'm really ratted for the afternoon. So again, that goes back to those rituals of making sure you're looking after yourself.
Yeah, definitely. So let's look at STEM. It's so funny. I didn't even know what STEM was 10 years ago, if that makes any sense. And it's grown. And the recognition that it's gone and what it's giving to women, I absolutely love it. The minute I hear STEM and girls, I just get really, really excited because it is a field that we didn't used to have access to at all. At all. So the science, the technology, the engineering, mathematics, these were all subjects and market sectors that were heavily dominated by men. So what attracted you? I know geography was your passion, but what really made you say, okay, this is going to be it for me, and also the advocacy that you do for other women and girls to get into some STEM subjects and businesses? Probably that's quite loaded there.
Yeah. Well, I think in my early 20s when I graduated, I didn't know much about it. There wasn't the sort of the awareness that there is now, and I kind of fell into the industry, if I'm completely honest. But as soon as I did, it kind of served my passion for geology and the natural world, but also it's got a practical element and it's creative as well. And when you're building things, and when you look at the built environment around you with engineering, so all of those things kind of just fed my skills and my sort of natural curiosity, and that's how I came into it. But once I'd started my own business, and it was then that I really noticed there really aren't any women, and especially as a leader, walking into every room, even today, luckily I'm not the only woman, but I'm generally the only woman of colour.
That's quite daunting, actually.
It's very daunting.
That must feel like all eyes on me every time you walk into a room.
Absolutely. And I've got used to it, but it shouldn't be that way. And so I think my advocacy started because I was a bit sick of being the only one in the room, and I thought, where are the other women? There are so many empty seats, and are people noticing who is missing from the room? And obviously the white men don't notice it because they're just looking at the other white men. And even though, and I think it takes for people who are on the fringes to, speak up and have the courage to speak up and go, hang on a minute, where are all the women? Where's the diversity? And I think for me, finding the courage, and I've got a voice, but using my voice in the last few years to do more.
You've done an amazing job. You've done an amazing job of bringing recognition to STEM subjects. And for younger girls and women entrepreneurs that kind of want to get more into the STEM, is there any advice that you've got for them, if that makes any sense, in terms of just getting more into it, especially young girls? And obviously women as well. There's some women that have got some brilliant business ideas, but that confidence knocks them of just being a minority and just not feeling like they've got anyone in their camp or on their side. So it can make you.
Well, I think more, having more female role models in the industry that women and girls can look up to, because if you can see it, then you can be it, and I believe that.
Yeah.
And I didn't have that in my early career at all, so it's a miracle that I'm here today. I think I didn't have any mentors or sponsors or role models, but I think that's what we need to create. And there are a really good handful of women doing some amazing work in STEM, and we're all kind of connected now and collaborating to bring more awareness, going into schools, doing industry events. And I think it's an exciting time for women coming in, because there are role models and advocates and people who are going to champion you. So I would say just go for it, seize those opportunities.
Yeah, I never looked at it like that, actually. That is really true. Like when you're on LinkedIn and you're really looking at women in business, women in our careers, actually there is a support community there now, kind of egging you on, saying try it, do it. You do get that vibe, whereas before it wasn't quite like that.
There's lots of associations and networks. There's women in construction, there's women in property, there's Women in Engineering Society. So there's lots of organisations now which are really geared for helping women come into the industry and supporting them in their careers.
Oh, brilliant. And if you was to be promoting, someone's got a STEM business within that sector and they were promoting themselves or their business, is there any tips and advice that you can give? Obviously, I know we've got LinkedIn and it's about networking, but is there just any advice around that, just like how to get more connected? Was this just back to good old school, having coffee chats?
It is networking. Honestly, that business, the face-to-face of meeting somebody in a room, having a chat, and then stuff leads to stuff. So you meet somebody at one event, they will connect you with somebody else, and opportunities will come. I think you just have to be a little bit more patient. And
yeah, just so you know, I'm actually learning from this interview, and I think one of the things for me, and I don't know if it's for the rest of you in the community, you've made me realise that I'm a bit impatient. I think sometimes we expect to follow these set of rules or a framework and think, bang, it's just going to happen. And sitting here with you today, it's just slowly making me realise, yeah, patience is a virtue.
I mean, I think 22 years in the industry and 15 running my business, and I only feel like, now I'm sort of seeing some of the results of the effort I've been putting in.
Oh wow, yeah. But then when you think about it, I was saying to people, if you're going to be a surgeon, the amount of time that you've got to study, then do some type of internship. When you add the years up, they say it takes at least 10 years to become an expert at anything. So I think sometimes the digital world and technology has made us feel like where everything's become faster, that business growth should be a lot faster as well.
Yeah, and business is, just to add one more thing, it's really about it's people and it's building trust. And so building trust digitally online it's harder. If you're in a room with somebody and having a chat with them and they're really getting to know you, you can build that relationship and that trust. And I think a lot of decisions are made on, from your emotional part of the brain, which is based on trust. So the rationality goes out the window, I think.
Yeah, no, you're right. That human to human is what I call it. So next, I just want to talk about building communities. Being the founder of Women in Digital Business, it's not been easy building a community. And I think that for me, there's definitely that fear of having to put myself out there. But in your sector and being in STEM, even more so, because obviously that community is quite small. But just in terms of building your own community, what you do a lot of speaking now, panels. When I did do research on you, there's like pages of you on Google. So that's a good thing. So just in terms of building a community, how did you build your own community and your own network? Does that make sense? And just giving advice to women that, building a community. Like I always remember growing up and aunts and uncles always used to say, it takes a village to raise a child.
It really does.
But I don't feel like I've got a village anymore.
And this is I'm learning from my own mistakes here that I should have done this sort of 15, 20 years ago, starting to build my network and my community, because I've only been doing it the last 5 or so, and I am a natural introvert and I'll happily sit behind a computer and just work alone, but it was a business coach that said you need to get out and see people and talk to people and build your network, and that will just pay dividends in the end to help you. And so I started doing that, and just going to networking events and talking to a few people is how I started. And I gravitated towards people that looked like me. That there weren't many of them in the room. But
I thought that was only me. I'm like that as well. Sometimes I think, do I do this on purpose, or what is it? I just keep gravitating towards people that I feel like I can identify with.
Yeah, you do. And I just gravitated towards, for example, the 2 co-hosts of the Chai and Chat engineering podcast that I'm on. They're both South Asian, and we met at the London Build Expo. And I was like, oh, are there Indian Asian engineers? I'll just go and have a chat with them. And they felt similarly, and we just instantly connected.
Yeah, you had that bond.
Yeah, through our cultural backgrounds, and 9 months later a podcast was born, crazily. But I think you just have to go out there, just be courageous enough to have one conversation, and that will lead to more, and you'll just get more confident with it.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I also think there's nothing wrong with gravitating or connecting with people that look like you. Sometimes I feel in this day and age, I'm a big advocate for diversity and I believe in equality, especially being second generation. But at the same time, sometimes I feel like people feel like to be diverse, it means that you can't be seen. Does that make sense, to be connecting? And you're right, these are just basic innate human contact. You do tend to gravitate towards people that would either look like you or you've got something in common with. And there's nothing wrong with that.
There isn't. No, if there's a woman of colour who's also a mother, and I'm like, yes, I've got so much in common with you, we can talk for hours. Whereas if it's a white man who's single and 25, and I'm like, I don't know how much my story is going to relate with you.
Yeah. And it's okay. It's okay.
And that's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay to network with people you connect with.
But that's kind of how I started, and it's just grown from that. And I have got lots of men in my community as well. So it's a nice mix, but also
That's lovely for you, because I'm women in digital business. I feel like I alienate them just with the title alone.
I can't alienate the men because they still dominate my industry. But it's trying to find the allies and the advocates as well.
Yes, and I think that's the important thing about networking as well. So even me, I find networking quite difficult actually, and I think the digital world as well has taken some element of human to human away. I think it could be easy to hide behind the computer, the smartphone or the tablet rather than actually getting out there. And I think sometimes they've got out there more physically. I think since the pandemic, a lot of things have still just remained online. You know, a lot of organisations do remote working, but it does take some of that human to human, and you're right. It's an innate ability as humans. We build trust and relationships through sitting in a room with each other.
I think you go through that initial discomfort and then it'll get easier.
So, women of colour, it's what Women in Digital Business was built on actually. So I know when I first started this community, it was really important for me to represent underrepresented women, actually, and I think that's definitely from my background. So when I read up about you being second generation, obviously you've got children now like myself, I identified with you a lot on that topic. Who knows it feels it. I don't know whether you say that to me, and it's something that's really hard for anybody to understand unless you are second generation. There's this element of you that doesn't really belong in the UK, especially for the age that I'm at. But then when you go back to your home country, actually, I've never felt like I'm a full resident there, because they will all look at me and think, oh my gosh, you're really lucky because you got to go to the UK and there's so much more opportunities out there.
Yeah.
So there's this element of like no man's land, of not having that true sense of belonging anywhere. But just in terms of women of colour, like, you know, how has that experience been for you, just sharing that with others? I just feel like it's important for women to hear it from different voices to really understand that, okay, there are differences of being a woman of colour in business and within your career. And just like, how do we overcome some of the obstacles that brings up?
That's a whole other episode, isn't it?
I know.
Oh my God, there's so much to unpack there. And I'm still trying to go on the journey of discovering all of this, because I probably put it away in a box and kind of like not really dealt with it, I think. Very similar to you. I grew up having two lives, I think.
Yes.
You know, at home, my parents were both immigrants. It was a very immigrant household. We only spoke Gujarati, ate vegetarian Indian food every night. Whereas at school, it was completely white. It was a white community. I anglicised my name because people couldn't pronounce my name. And there's been so many things like that. And it's only, I think, as I've become a mother and grown more confident in myself, that I can wear my culture with pride and not try and be somebody else.
And I totally have no idea how much I resonate with that, because you do lose yourself as a woman of colour. You do lose yourself feeling like you've almost got to immolate. And you do. I grew up hiding my own culture. The things that kids could say and they could do, that didn't happen in my household.
No, and you know, I mean, I'm not even going to go on racism, but that was kind of just something you kind of accepted as part of the course.
It's everyday life.
It's everyday life, and people talk about it now as some big thing, and you're like, I just had to live with it.
Yeah.
Not that it's, you know, I'm not saying it's okay, but it was, it's very different for my children now and this generation, and that's a good thing. But I think it has been really difficult, and I think women of our, second generation, we kind of just put our head down and got on with it. And I think I was so grateful to be in this country, the sacrifices my parents have made to get here. There was a very...
It's like your hat is like seen, it's like they've done all this for me.
Yeah. There was kind of an expectation and a responsibility that you would do well, you would, be the good girl, you would go and get an education, you get a good job, but don't be too loud or too bossy or too outspoken at the same time.
Yeah.
And so there's a kind of a bit of a contradiction going on.
There is, because that being bossy, being outspoken, probably got me to where I am in my adult life once I found my voice.
Yeah. So it's I can't remember the original. I mean, there's so much there, isn't there?
There is a lot there. So it's just really just about your experience as a woman of colour, what that looked like for you. But I think you've unpacked that quite well, because I think what I really want women to understand is that their experiences are not alienated to you. There's a lot of us that go through them.
Yeah.
But for some strange unknown reason, more so, first, second and third generation, we don't speak about it as much. I think you're right about the pride issue, and I would like to see more women coming forward and saying, actually, I'm going to be starting a business based on something that was given to me from my ancestors, or something that attracts other second and third generation women, because actually we are a massive community. So I'd like to see that community within itself kind of grow bigger, because I think there's a lot of products, a lot of services that are now coming out that are actually culturally based on, you know, what people have been through, or they've seen a spot in the market for an audience that might not be mainstream. So I think you actually unpacked that really well, and I just find it's a conversation that not many of us talk about who are second generation and third.
We do. And also, I think because of our parents who were immigrants, they were still leading that life at home for us, and so it was very conflicting growing up of who our identity and where do we belong. And I remember having visits to India, and they have a term called NRIs. They're non-resident Indians. So you're not Indian, you're an NRI.
So you actually got a label.
You got a label, like you have to queue up in a separate queue when you go to for sightseeing and things.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say the airport.
No. So there's like foreigners and NRIs, and then there's Indians, and I was like, well, which one am I? I don't, you know. And so they make you not want to, you know, they make you not belong. But equally here, you don't belong. So it was very conflicting.
Yeah, I think for me, even for me, you've given me insight today. I think it's the pride thing that you touched me on there. It's true. It's about having a pride of who you are and where you come from, and actually your understanding of it in that second generation, and just being able to wear that badge and being able to walk into a boardroom or an environment that you're in and kind of be proud of where you're from. And I think that's actually taught. You're right. Yeah.
Actually, I have quite a nice story. If I've got a
please
moment.
Do. I love a story.
Well, last year I got nominated as part of the Inspirational Businesswomen in STEM Construction, and the event was at the House of Lords. And I was umming and ahhing about what to wear, and at the last minute, my 6-year-old daughter said, "Mummy, why don't you wear a sari?"
Love it. Sorry.
And then I was like, okay, I'll just put on a sari. And then I was like, I can't quite put on a sari myself, so my mum had to help me. So it took, 3 generations, and I went to the House of Lords wearing this bright purple sari. And
you have to send me a picture so we can show it.
And that was the moment where I thought I'm in one of the oldest institutions in the world, wearing my sari and wearing my culture.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think that answered the question absolutely beautifully in terms of being a woman of colour and second generation. Yeah, I love that. You have to send us a picture of you there, sorry, so I can put this out with this episode. I absolutely love that. Maybe next time I'm going to go my carnival.
Yes.
Or carnival outfit. Rooting for the Caribbean.
More colour.
Yeah, most definitely. I absolutely love that. So, next thing is scaling and sustainability. I know for me, when I started my business, I just wanted to run into the scaling bit. I just love the idea of scaling. But actually, scaling is a really, really difficult time within a business because you've got to break ceiling height. It's quite a big ceiling height. What did it look like for you as your business started to grow traction? It's like, okay, we need to go to the next level. Like, what were some of the I say road flags, that makes no sense. What were some of the road stops that came? Like, was it more funding? Was it the upskilling? Like, what did that look like for you?
For us, we are our sort of economic denominator, or our biggest asset are our people, our skills, because we sell technical services. So for us, it was the skill of having the right people on board. And very quickly, when we couldn't do the work ourselves and we had to hire in, it was hiring the right people. Was one of the biggest things for us, and we made a few mistakes early on, and we didn't always get it right, but we soon learned that actually hiring on behaviours and attitude and values was the most important thing over skills, because we can teach the skills. So yeah,
that's interesting actually.
Yeah, we changed our whole recruitment process. Now we've got we do psychometric testing, and we do a whole section on sort of cultural values and lots of different things on behaviours, and making sure that we have outlined what behaviours are acceptable and what we want to see in our business, and what we will celebrate and reward and what is not acceptable.
That's brilliant. So it sounds like your business has got a real strong company culture that you created there. So when you're recruiting, you're more recruiting on making sure that someone's the right fit into the organisation and the culture that you've got, and work to that. And then actually, if you need to upskill them, you'd actually invest. That's what it sounds
we would
like.
invest in them, yes, yeah. And we like sort of homegrown, so our sort of recruitment strategy, our business model is that we will, for engineers, we take in graduates, and we like to just get them in, nurture them, train them from the bottom up, and then they learn our way and our culture. And we've got graduates who've been with us for 7-8 years who are now
that's a huge achievement, by the way.
Senior leadership team. You know, one of the women, and I love it. She's a woman, and she wants to be MD one day. And so we kind of like that of giving them the opportunity and do internal promotions first before we go outside, and making sure we can give our team sort of career pathways as well.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely brilliant, because even women in digital business, as we scaled, resource was a big part of it as well, a huge part. And I think as a CEO and founder, you've almost got to put people's needs before your own and make sure that they're getting what they need, from remuneration to upskilling. And I think when people feel valued and they feel part of your culture and their team, they'll put that extra in and they become a part of the business. And it's just ensuring that they believe in it. Yeah, but I find that amazing that you take from graduates on and you upskill them. I wish we could see more businesses taking that approach to actually, when they're scaling or even just growing their business bigger, taking that same approach actually. I always see a lot of things, especially on LinkedIn, about recruitment, and sometimes it feels like, okay, what about the actual person that's applying for?
And I know it's a model that it does work for us, and we're now looking at trying to take on work placements as well, because that's almost a try before you buy, and they get an opportunity, and we get a sort of a sustainable pipeline as well. So, but I do believe in investing in people early on, because if you you can help unlock their potential, then I think the sky's the limit, really.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. Now that I'm thinking about it with scaling, it wasn't just funding, it was about finding the right people to be a part of that team. It's quite funny, like yourself, I've had members of staff that have been with me for like the last 7-8 years. I think if they left, it would almost like someone of my family member. I know, why? So I absolutely love that as well. Were there any other challenges that you found from scaling that business? Like, when did you realise, oh my gosh, like we're growing at a rate that I didn't quite expect? Was there that moment, or was it just more of like a natural transition, if that makes any sense?
I think it was quite organic, but I remember, breastfeeding my baby and doing payroll at midnight. I was like, this is not on. I think we need more people, and I can't do it all. And that was sort of the early days, but I think when we hit certain revenue milestones, we were like, right, we need more people to actually do the work. Because
but how did it feel reaching those revenue milestones as well, especially like building your business from absolutely ground zero up, being second generation? Like, how did that feel for you, or did you so busy that maybe you didn't even notice it?
I think I was so busy. I think you're always looking to the next thing, and I've been told off in the past, or quite recently, that I don't stop enough to celebrate my own wins, and I'm always looking to the next thing, and I need to just stop and just reflect and
you most definitely do. You've done amazing.
Celebrate a little bit more, I think. And
I think a lot of us are guilty of that as well. Celebrating those wins. Remember, 3 wins every day.
Even if it's putting on the washing.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. So the big question of today is sustainability. I say it's the big question of today. I feel like in today's time, not actually all of us really understand what sustainability is. I mean, as confused as that might sound, we hear the word, we know it, but I don't think we really sometimes understand, like, what does sustainability mean within your business, starting a business. Does that make sense? And just really embracing the age that we're in and sustainability. Just want to talk about, what sustainability looks like within your own organisation, and where would be a good place to start, just in terms of really understanding what sustainability looks like for a business.
That's a good question.
Big one.
It's a big question. I'll probably start with my business and my team, I think. And for us, as we scaled, we realised to be a sustainable business, we really need to be clear on our vision, purpose. People talk about values and mission, but actually you need all those things, and it doesn't matter how small you are. I think the earlier you can start thinking about those things, the better, and understanding your own why. We've looked at our own personal whys, and then the company's why. Why do we exist? What problem are we trying to solve in the world? And what is our bigger purpose than just doing what we do for profit? Because that's not enough. That's not enough to take your team along with you to get alignment and commitment.
Yeah.
And to build trust. So these were really big questions that we sat with for quite a few years, and something we need to revisit every so often. But understanding where you want to get to and what you're trying to do, I think, is a big piece of that sustainability.
It's funny though, Dipalee, just to let you know, no one's ever explained it to me like that. Just so you know, and I've been to many conferences and many workshops, if you want me to be honest with you, and nobody's explained it to me like that. It's true, it should be a part of your brand values.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be this add-on, bolt-on service, which is, I kind of feel like, you know, when you're going to workshops, you're being invited, it's about, you know, how to be more sustainable. These are things that really should be a part of your why and your brand values. And it just makes more sense to me. You might find that weird, but no one's ever explained sustainability like that to me before.
And you remember what I said?
Yeah, but now that you said it, you know, it's like, well, yeah, the answer was so obvious, but it's not obvious, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And yeah, it should be a part of your brand values. Like, what do you stand for? And it should be incorporated into that. I find at the minute it's still quite technical. Like you're following some type of manifesto or something of how to be sustainable, when really it should be a part of your values in the first instance, especially with the world that we live in now.
I think so. And there's a lot of buzzwords, and people like to, like you say, it's a sort of a tag on, but like our purpose is better living engineered, and so that goes into making sure our team, you know, their needs are met, that we're providing career opportunities and economic growth, and we're looking after them and well-being.
Yeah.
And as a business, we're responsible. And also down to the actual technical work that we do, that we're building sustainable cities and communities that are going to last, that are going to look after the planet. So it kind of weaves into all parts of our communities and our environments.
Yeah, and it's about how taking those brand values and how do we make that sustainable, not how do we add sustainability to the business, which I think I've just realised today is how I think myself and many others actually look at it, if that makes any sense. But yeah, that was a brilliant answer. So, Dipalee, I actually got introduced to you through Every Women, who are, I just think, a brilliant team of women. Like, they're on a mission to really make sure that we are more visible in all areas, and especially diversity. So that's how I got introduced to you. And I know one of the problems that they're having is women of colour, second generation, those from more underrepresented groups, actually putting themselves forward and applying for awards. And I know that you was a winner.
I was at the Entrepreneur for Good.
Yeah. See, Entrepreneur for Good. You know, just want to speak more about how do we get like women from diverse backgrounds to put themselves out there more, especially for awards, so they can be recognised. Because it just feels like it's an area where there's not enough of us actually putting ourselves forward and applying for awards. So just wanted to hear your viewpoint on like how could we do more.
How can we do more? I mean, I struggle with this myself, because I know just over a year ago, I think it was the first time I'd applied for an award, and during the judging day, the judges were like, you have to just apply for everything. You have to put yourself forward. You have to be your own advocate and your own cheerleader, and believe in yourself more, because other people do. So I think that self-belief, and I think just thinking, you know, we sometimes think, oh, I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough. You know, and that sort of that self-critic on your shoulder going, I'm not good enough to do that. Give it a go.
Yeah.
You just have to give it a go. And after that one sort of statement, that piece of advice, I sort of applied for a number of things, and one of them was Every Woman, and I had no thought that I would actually win at all. I was not at all. I went through the motions, and I was just sat
so credible.
When they announced my name, I was like, what? No.
Is that me?
But I think, and I think advocacy from other men and women as well, of really, and sort of supporting and championing, because there's not enough of it.
Actually, that is true. I think it's important as well, ladies, if you know someone that's doing really well and you think they should be applying for awards, allyship is definitely key, and it is about encouraging other women as well that you might think that are suitable for an award, or you feel like they should be recognised, and actually putting that out there. We've got platforms like LinkedIn, you know, actually they can be used more, and I think I'm going to take that one from you as well. Anybody that I feel like actually you would be great at being recognised at what you do, I'm going to start saying to them, have you thought about applying for some awards? Yeah,
I mean, I've had colleagues and friends, you know, sending stuff to me going, you should apply for this, and the one at the House of Lords, one of my industry colleagues actually put the nomination in. I didn't do it, and so
Oh wow!
yeah, so that was very lovely of her. But you know, you can nominate other people, so it doesn't have to be for yourself, because I know sometimes that can feel a bit weird.
Yeah,
But you have
it does.
to-
It does feel
yeah.
weird, by the way.
I know.
There's kind of like this feeling of like, I'm like,
Arrogance.
yeah.
But actually, if it was a man doing it, would they care?
That's true, probably not, which is why there are probably more men that apply for awards.
So I think, yeah, we need to give ourselves more credit. We need to just let go of the fear of failure and not good enough, and just see what happens, because actually you might be surprised.
Yeah, and I give you a challenge as well, as everybody to go away and nominate one person for an award with that allyship.
Yeah, and actually you just reminded me, talking about sort of Asian women. So there is Asian Women of Achievement Awards, if there's any Asian women watching this, which is a good one to look at. There's lots of categories, and I'm in the finals in a couple of weeks.
Well, make sure you put the link in the bio, vote for you. Oh, yeah.
Or the judging panel.
I was going to jump in. Maybe we could bully them, but yeah.
So we'll see what happens with
Yeah,
that.
but no, best of luck with that. Best of luck. So, Dipalee, it's been a pleasure. So, as we wrap up, I would like to ask you one final question. Like, what is the best piece of advice that you've ever been given that's had great impact on your business and career?
I think courage before confidence.
Ooh, I like that one.
Courage, it all starts with courage, because everything else follows.
Yeah, never heard that, by the way. Don't know if you have. I love that. Courage before confidence.
Yeah, I heard it. I mean, I've heard lots of different renditions of it, but someone said it really succinctly a few months ago. And it is, it starts with courage. Courage to be vulnerable, courage to put your hand up, courage to fail, to say I don't know, or try something new. Just, I think that courage, and then the confidence you can build on, that's a skill, it's like a muscle that you flex.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. I'm going to put that in my affirmation.
And courage, courage to ask for what you want.
Yeah, and I actually think I'm going to use that one with my children as well. Because sometimes I've got this habit of saying, Mum, I'm not going to ask, you're just going to say no. And I always say, well, if you don't ask, you don't get.
Yes.
So that's going to be my new one. Courage before confidence. Have the courage to ask. And drill it into them. I love that. Oh, Dipalee, thank you so much for today. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on Spotlight Hustle, and I just wish you every success in your business, your endeavours, and I'm sure our paths will cross again. But thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me.